Okay, so here we go. We are going to just go through the review for the test. It's been a while since I've done a video, so sorry if it gets a little confusing, but I'm just going to go through this, kind of explain as I go along. Might go kind of fast on it, but if you need to press pause at any point, just kind of press pause at any point and go on. So we're going to rewrite each polynomial in standard form, identify the degree, leading coefficient, and number of terms. I'm going to name it and sketch the general shape of the function by finding its end behavior. So standard form, remember when we go in standard form, we go with the largest exponent first, so 3n to the fifth plus 5n minus 10. So there's the standard form. Leading coefficient, the number out in front of our largest exponent, so n to the fifth, leading coefficient then is 3. The degree is the exponent of your leading term or first term, so that's 5. Number of terms, it has 3. Name of the polynomial, again, we're not going to worry about this too much. It's a trinomial. It's a fifth term polynomial with 3 terms, or a trinomial. We won't worry about that too much. End behavior we are going to worry about. Its degree is odd. The leading coefficient is positive, so odd and positive, our end behaviors are here and here. Second one, standard form, negative 3r minus 8 is our standard form. Leading coefficient, negative 3. Degree, it's just a first degree with 2 terms. Name of it, this is a linear binomial. Again, not going to worry about that too much. End behavior, it's an odd degree that's negative because it's negative 3, so odd degree and negative goes there and there. Question number 3 says, simplify each expression. Write your answers in standard form. Careful with that standard form. Some of you on the quiz didn't put it in standard form. You combined your like terms, but then you didn't put it in standard form, and that cost you a little bit of a point. So make sure you do that. So we've got negative 5x cubed minus 5x cubed. So remember when we had a minus symbol in here, the best thing to probably do is to distribute that minus in there. So that's negative 5x cubed and then minus 2x squared. Now we can combine like terms. So we've got negative 5x cubed and negative 5x cubed. That's negative 10x cubed, and I'm putting that first because I want it in standard form. We've got this negative 2x squared here. We got no other 2x squared, so that's going to be negative 2x squared. And then we've got this 2x sitting over here, so that's going to go at the end. So positive 2x. And that one's done. Number 4. Again, since it's subtracting, I'm going to rewrite it. So that's 9x squared minus 10 minus 4x. A minus and a minus is a plus 2x squared minus 9. Combine like terms. So x squareds are my biggest ones, so I'm going to highlight those two. Don't want that to be that color. Let's make it blue. 9 and 2 is 11, so that's 11x squared. We've got a 4x, negative 4x, so minus 4x. And then number-wise, we've got negative 10 and negative 9, so that is negative 19. And that is your solution, and you're done. Question number 5. So we've got a binomial and a trinomial, so I'm going to do the Punnett squares. So this is 6n, this is negative 1. 3n squared minus 8n. And 6. So I multiply 6n and 3n squared. That gives me 18n cubed. Negative 1 times 3n squared is negative 3n squared. 6 times negative 8 is negative 48. N times n is n squared. Negative 1 times 8 is 8n. This gives me 36n, and that gives me negative 6. Now we can kind of combine our like terms for our final solution. In standard form, 18n cubed minus 3 and minus 48 is minus 51n squared plus 44n minus 6. And again, make sure you put it in standard form. And we were pretty good with those. 3p minus 2 squared. Remember, when you square something, it means you're taking it times itself. So this is 3p minus 2 times 3p minus 2. And you could do the Punnett squares, or you could just FOIL. That's 9p squared. First, outside, it's negative 6p. Inside, negative 6p. And last is plus 4. Combine like terms, 9p squared minus 12p plus 4. And it's done. Sorry, my nose itches. 6 minutes in. Number 7, divide. So we're going to use synthetic division. So using synthetic division, the opposite over there goes in the box, so that's 8. And then I go 7, and I start with x cubed. So now I've got 59x squared. I've got 28x minus 39. So everything is accounted for. It goes 3, 2, 1, none. Bring down the 7. 8 times 7 is 56. Negative 59 plus 56 is negative 3. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. 28 plus negative 24 is 4. That's 32. That gives me a remainder of 7. So the way we write this is 7x squared minus 3x plus 4 with our remainder of positive 7 over our x minus 8. And this is the form that you're expected to put it in when you do those. Question number 8. We've got x plus 2. So that means minus 2 is going to go in there. And if I notice this, when it goes 3, 2, there's no 1, and then there's a 6. So my x cubed is 1. My x squared is 2. There's no x, so I have to put a 0 in there. And then I've got a 6. Bring down the 1. That gives me negative 2. That gives me 0. That gives me 0. That gives me 0. That gives me 0. That gives me 6. So we started with x to the third. So we've just got x squared plus 6 with the remainder of x plus 2. I think that's right. I might scroll down to the answers down there. It looks a little off, but oh no, that's right. Hey, look at that, I got it right. I gotta check mine sometimes too. You never know, especially with me sometimes. Factoring. Okay, so we're gonna find all zeros by factoring. So factoring, there's 4 terms. So 4 terms means that I factor by grouping. Oops. So I'm going to group the first 2 together, take out a GCF, which is x squared. If I take an x squared out of x cubed, that gives me x minus 3. Minus, I'm going to take a 1 out of there. If I take a minus 1 out of there, that gives me x minus 3. So my factors are x minus 3 and x squared minus 1. Now it says, so this is factored form. So we've got that. Now we have to find the zeros. So remember, when we're finding the zeros, what makes this 0? Well, 3 makes that 0. So there's one of your zeros. And then x squared minus 1 equals 0. So x squared equals 1. Find the square root of both sides. So it's square root both sides. You get x is equal to, remember, it's plus or minus the square root of 1. Square root of 1 is just 1, so your solutions would be x is equal to 1 and x is equal to negative 1. Square root of 1 is just 1, so it would be x equals plus or minus 1, which is 1 or negative 1. So there are your 3 zeros for that one. Number 10. If we're going to find the zeros, we have to put it in standard form. So that's 9r squared. Put the 12 on the other side. So I got to add 12r to both sides. And then minus 5 equals 0. Take out a GCF. There isn't one. So since there isn't a GCF and it's a trinomial, we're going to do the x thing. So 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. And then 12 here. So that's negative 3 and 15. Negative 3 times 15 is negative 45. Negative 3 plus 15 is 12, so that works. But now remember, we have to divide this by 9, and we have to reduce. So 3 goes into 9, so that's negative 1/3. And 15 over 9 is 5/3. So in factored form, that's 3r minus 1 and 3r plus 5. So again, we have to set it equal to 0. So 3r minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 and divide by 3. So 1/3 is one of my zeros. 3r plus 5 equals 0. Subtract 5, divide by 3. That's my other zero. Trinomials. X method. Number 11. Again, got to get it in standard form. So x to the 4th plus 2x cubed minus 3x squared. First step, take out a GCF. GCF for this is x squared. That leaves me with x squared plus 2x minus 3. Now we've got a trinomial sitting right there. So we've got negative 3 on the top and 2 on the bottom. So that's 3 and negative 1. So factored form, we've got to bring this x squared down, and then x plus 3, x minus 1, that equals 0. So my zeros, what makes x squared 0? 0. X plus 3, that's negative 3. X minus 1 is 1. So there are my zeros for that one. And we move on. Number 12, look for a GCF. There isn't one. 4 terms means we group. Group the first 2 terms together. Common factor is x squared. So that leaves me with x minus 4. And then common factor for the second one is negative 3. That leaves me with x, 12 divided by x minus 4. So our factors, x minus 4 and x squared minus 3 equals 0. Okay, find the zeros. First one's pretty easy. It's just 4. Second one, we've got x squared minus 3 equals 0. So x squared equals 3. Take the square root. You get plus or minus the square root of 3. Perfectly acceptable answer. And there are your zeros. Number 13, we've got a 0 over there, so it's already equal to 0. So only 2 terms. So if we have 2 terms, look for GCF. GC of this is x, and that leaves me with x minus 8 equals 0. Well, now it's factored already. So what makes this 0? 0. What makes this 0? 8. There are your 2 solutions. Number 14, again, put it in standard form. 3x squared, subtract 11x from both sides, add 6 to both sides. 3 terms, no GCF. 3 times 6 is 18, and negative 11 on the top. So it's negative on the bottom and positive on the top, so they're both going to be negative. So negative 9 and negative 2. Now remember, you have to divide by your a value, which is 3, and then reduce. This reduces to negative 3. So that gives me x minus 3. The other one doesn't reduce. That's 3x minus 2. What makes this 0? Well, 3 makes that 0. And then this would be 3x minus 2 equals 0. So add 2, divide by 3. Here's zeros. Number 15, take out a GCF. There isn't one. It's a trinomial. Negative 12 on the top and 4 on the bottom. So we've got 6 and negative 2. Our leading coefficient was 1. So that's x plus 6 and x minus 2. So 6 and 2. And again, you have to have all of this. I mean, all of these things are your solution. You have to have it factored, and then you have to find the zeros. Number 16, take a GCF out. GCF is x. That leaves me with 5x squared plus 4x minus 1. Trinomial, so I'm going to try to factor it like this. So negative 5 and 4. So that's 5 and negative 1. Yep. My a value is 5, so I have to divide by 5. So we bring this x down, so it's x. That reduces to 1, so that's x plus 1. The negative 1/5 doesn't reduce, so that's 5x minus 1. So the zeros are 0, negative 1, add 1, divide by 5. There are your zeros. Number 17, solve each equation with the quadratic formula. So step 1, write it in standard form still. So m squared plus 6m minus 15. That's step 1. Step 2, list your a's, b's, and c's. My a value is the number out in front of the m squared, which is 1. My b is the number out in front of the m, which is 6. And my c is the number, which is negative 15. So now we've got our quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It's like 9:30 at night, almost 10. It's like 10, sorry. Getting tired. So negative b, so that's b is 6, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root. 6 squared is 36. Minus 4 times a is 1, c is negative 15, all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. Simplify that, that's negative 6, plus or minus the square root, that's 36. Minus and a minus is a plus, I think that's 60, all divided by 2. So negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 96 divided by 2. You got to do the factor tree for 96. I think it's 16 and 6. Yeah, it is. 16 is 4 and 4. So that's negative 6 plus or minus 4 radical 6 over 2, which I'd be somewhat happy with. But 2 goes into those, so that'd be negative 3 plus or minus 2 radical 6. We're going to go down and see how we did. Okay, that's the same answer. Okay, this is another way to write it. I guess I wondered if I've been doing well all along. Looks like I've been doing fine all along. Okay. Number 18, I'll do this in blue because I'm going to mix together. So 6n squared plus 6n plus 3 equals 0, so standard form. A's and B's and C's, you could list them if you want to. I'm going to save some space, so I'm not going to do it. So x is equal to negative b, so negative 6, plus or minus the square root of b is 6, so 36 minus 4 times a is 6 times c is 3. All divided by 2 times 6. So that's negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 24 times 3, 72. All divided by 12. So that's negative 6 plus or minus the square root of negative 36 over 12. The square root of negative 36. Square root of 36 is 6. The square root of a negative is I, so that's negative 6 plus or minus 6i over 12, which again could be reduced to negative 1 plus or minus I over 2. Again, let's go check our answers, make sure we're good. Yay, we got it. And there it is. So remember, negative square root of 1 is I, so that's why it's 6i. Next one, for each quadratic, identify the directions, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's in standard form. Direction of the opening, we look at our A value. I'm going to list the A value. A value is -2, the B value is -4, and the C value is -5. Direction of the opening, based on our -2, this is going to open down. If A is negative, it opens down. The line of symmetry, the formula we use is x is equal to -b over 2a. So b is -4, so that's 4 over 2 times -2. 2 times -2 is -4, so my line of symmetry is x is equal to -1. So that's my line of symmetry. My vertex now, my y value is -1. So now I go back to this equation, the original equation, and anywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a -1. Make sure you follow order of operations. -1 squared is 2. I'm sorry, -1 squared is 1. So this gives me -2 plus 4 minus 5. So that's -2 plus 4 is 2, so that's -3. Maximum or minimum value, because this goes down, okay, it's going to go like that. This is going to be a maximum. The value of the maximum is y is equal to -3. It's my y value at the vertex. The domain, all reals. The graph of this, which I'm going to graph right now, my line of symmetry was at -1, so it's going to look like that. My vertex was at -1, -3, which is right there. It doesn't ask for the y-intercept, but the y-intercept is, remember the y-intercept is the point 0c. So I know the point 0, -5 is on the graph, so that's right there. So then because it's symmetric, that one has to be on there. So there's my graph. So my range is going to be all y values that are less than or equal to -3. Again, the -3 just comes from right here. And the values of y, remember the range is the value of y's that are included, so less than -3. Number 20, the same thing. The a value is 2, so this is going to open up because it's positive. The line of symmetry, x equals -b, so -4 over 4, so it's -1 again. So our vertex is -1, so that's 2 times -1 squared plus 4 times -1 plus 3. So that's 2 minus 4 plus 3, which is 1. So my vertex is at -1, 1. I'm just going to go ahead and graph that. This graph is going to go up, so this is a minimum value. The minimum value is y is equal to 1. The domain is all reals. It's going to look like this. So our range is all y values that are greater than or equal to 1. Find the zeros and then graph, so 2 more. One that's already factored, so find the zeros. We just did this, 0. Remember the zeros, and we talked about multiplicity. So 0 has a multiplicity of 1. X minus 3, 3 makes that 0, but because it's squared, it has a multiplicity of 2. And -1 has a multiplicity of 1. Okay. So the end behavior, just to kind of sketch this end behavior, multiplicity is 4, so the degree is even, the leading coefficient is positive. So even and positive looks like that. So my zeros are at 0, 3, and -1. So I know it's going to start here. It's got to go through -1 first. -1 has a multiplicity of 1, so it's going to go through it. 0 has a multiplicity of 1, so it's going to go through it. Going to curl back down here, and 3 has a multiplicity of 2, so it's got to bounce off it. Notice how the graph looks like the end behavior, and we're done. And number 22. This one we have to factor. So we're going to start by taking out a GCF. So we take out an x. That's x squared minus 6x plus 5. We've got a trinomial. So a 5 and a negative 6. This is everybody's favorite. It's negative 5 and negative 1. Everybody always has trouble with this one. So it's x times x minus 5, x minus 1. So our zeros are 0. That has a multiplicity of 1. 5, that has a multiplicity of 1, and 1 that has a multiplicity of 1. Degree is a third degree, and it's positive. So third and positive, there's our end behaviors. We've got a 0 at 0, 5, and 1. Starts down here. Each of them only has a multiplicity of 1. Looks like that. There's your test, kind of in a nutshell. Took about 25 minutes for me to go through that. So, yeah, hopefully you're good to go. Obviously, the review will probably be a little bit longer than the test, I would imagine, since this took me about 25 minutes, which means it would take you a lot longer than 25 minutes to do this. So we'll cut this test down a little bit, make sure it's not 22 questions, and you'll go from there. If you have any questions, make sure you stop in before class on Thursday, or if you're watching this 2 years from now and it's not a Tuesday today and you're not testing on Friday, make sure you stop in the morning before the test. Have a good night, everybody. Hopefully this recorded.